Hi, in this video I want to give you a quick demonstration of my latest utility for Metatrader 4 platform, and this is my new Watchlist utility. So here I have a blank chart. I'm just going to drag the indicator from my navigator onto the chart. You're just OK on the defaults, and you'll see at top right you have favorites and then the opportunity to enter some text underneath. Now the first time you run this tool there will obviously be no existing watch lists. So what it does is to create one called favorites automatically, and then gives you an opportunity to create either select the favorites or to create a new one. So for now I'm just going to create a new one, just calling it my watch list. Let's enter on that, and you see at the top my watch list comes up to show that it's valid, and we have opportunities to add symbols to it underneath manually. So for example, I'll just add a couple of symbols, your USD, GBP USD, US USD. So very simple. AUD, sorry, AUD USD. So very simple to add symbols manually if that's what you want to do. However, there are some shortcuts which I will go into now. So when you first run the utility on your Metatrader account, then what you might want to do is to automatically create some default watch lists, and this can be done based on the categories that your broker set up for different symbols. You can get an idea of what these are just by looking at the plus and seeing how these have been split up here. These are different categories, so you can actually create one list for each of these categories and it will automatically populate with the relevant symbol. To do that, just activate your chart and then use Shift B, B for broker. Give it a second and then just go to the drop down list by clicking on this arrow here, and you'll see you get a list of all these corresponding categories that your broker has set up. So for example, if I click on Forex minors, you then have all the minor Forex currency pairs set up by default. Looking at the other lists, you have Forex exotic and so on. That's pretty easy to do, and it's worthwhile doing first time. Now what you may want to do from here is actually use these lists to create your own lists. So let's, for example, drop down and choose the Forex minors. Now if you want to copy this, all you have to do is drop down, having selected Forex minors, drop your list down, enter and say whatever you want to call it. So my favorite, or let's say my Forex pairs. Press enter, and then you automatically have a list which is exactly the same symbols in it as the previously selected list. So that's a pretty straightforward way of adding things initially, and then you can still add on to these if you wanted to. For example, these don't have the majors that were in a separate list, so I may want to do USD, pound dollar, Aussie, Kiwis already there, Canadian dollars already there, maybe USD Swiss. So there you have a fairly comprehensive list of all the foreign exchange currency pairs. Now the way I like to set this up is to have copy lists for different time frames that I may be looking at. So for example, I may want a list for weekly time frames and one for the daily time frames. And in a moment I'll show you why it actually might be beneficial to do it this way. How to do this? First of all, I have my default list here of all the currency pairs I'm interested in. I'm just going to drop that down on that list. I'm going to call it daily charts, and then I'll do same called weekly charts. Can't spell. Enter. So now if I drop down the list here, you see that I've got daily charts, I've got weekly charts, and I'm just going to get rid of these other ones that I've created, and also the broker ones. So I'm just left with the majority of the ones that I've created and the favorites. You can of course add any other symbols you want to these watch lists, or create new watch lists for different types of symbol, such as commodities or currencies or metals and so on. So now I'm just left with these 2 or 3 lists, including my favorites. I'm just going to select the weekly charts, and I may go to the weekly time frame on my list, and I'll go to the top of the list to bring up the Aussie CAD. Now if you look at the columns here, you have the first column is you can apply a colour bookmark to it. So for example, if you really like the Aussie CAD, you might do it green, or if it's red hot and you want to look at it, you might choose it red. So you can have blue, that's the default, which is uncoloured, green, yellow or red. And you can do this for any one of them, just to sort of signify its importance or how closely you want to observe it. The second column, you'll see there's a very faint arrow here. This essentially allows you to say which direction you want to trade on this particular time frame. In this case, I'm calling it my weekly chart. So you just have to click on that and it will go to upwards for buy, downwards for sell, sideways for ranging. Click again and it will go to unselected. So again, you can do this for all of these, and these will be remembered as you open and close your terminal, and separately for each list. The third column is a way you can add it to your favorites list. So if I just change my favorites list now, you'll see that there's no currency symbols in there. If I drop the list down, go to my weekly charts as before, and say I like the Euro Aussie, maybe the Euro Yen, maybe a Pound Aussie. Then I just go back to my favorites list now. You'll see that these 3 pairs have been added to it, and you can set the colours here completely independently from the other list, as well as the direction that you think you want to be trading. If you don't want them on a list, you can of course just simply remove them using the crosses. So I'm just now going to go back to the weekly charts list that I created earlier, where we have all the different symbols that we added, and I'm just going to randomly pick a few different colours for each one. I have a red one here, have that one going up, so this one going down, so the blue one here going up. We're going to add the red one to our favourites there. Now if you want to, you can copy this list, not just with the symbols but all the settings that you have already. So you just click on this down arrow here, which always drops down to give you a list of watch lists created already. You just add another one here, a copy of list. And here you have a copy of list with all of the pre-selected values that was already there on the previous list. So just a few more things I want to quickly point out. We have this lightning symbol here. All this does is to reset all of the colours and the trend directions to their default non-set value. So click it now and all the colours disappear and the arrows disappear. The favourites are still left in place. If you want to get rid of the list temporarily, just click on the title at the top and it will hide it. Click it again and it comes back. So that can be quite useful if you don't want it cluttering up your chart all the time. And finally, we want to navigate through the different charts. Let's start at the Aussie CAD. You can just use the tab key to move down the list, or shift tab to move back up the list. So it's quite a quick and easy way of moving around. So that basically sums up everything there is to know. It's a simple tool, but it's very, very useful. I use it myself a lot just to do my analysis of different symbols on different time frames and keep a note of which way they're moving or which way I'm thinking of trading. So hopefully everything's clear. Feel free to email me on graeme@letmebefree.com and I'll do my best to answer any questions you may have. Thank you very much.